The person next to you might want to lose weight. The person next to you might want financial freedom. The person next to you might want to quit their 9 to 5 that they hate too, but that still don't mean y'all got the same goal. And it's very hard to assess your readiness to change if you haven't been completely honest about, now I don't want to just be an author. Like, I want to be a New York Times bestseller. When you have big goals, you have to assess your readiness to change, guys. And assessing your readiness to change looks like 4 questions. And so make sure you have this in your notes.
Optimal health is not a privilege, it's a right. However, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of health challenges today can be attributed to lifestyle. This includes our physical activity, the quality of our relationships, stress, purpose and fulfillment, and of course, our diet. But what if there was an alternative? What if we could prevent and combat these health challenges with lifestyle changes before pills and procedures? You are listening to the Plant Protocol podcast with yours truly, plant-based health and business coach, and now the forever voice in your head, Lisa A. Smith. It's time to come get this health.
Welcome back to part 2 of how to tell if you're really ready for change. This is a continuation of our last episode where I'm breaking down my framework for assessing your readiness for change, whether that change be in your health, in your career, in your relationships, in your personal development. There's just some questions that you want to make sure you're asking yourself as you're embarking on a new journey that requires new things and new environments. So as you continue to take notes in part 2 of today's episode, really lean in and think about that one area in your life that you really want to manifest just a different outcome, a different reality. And then use last week's episode and today's episode as a litmus test on whether or not you're really ready to move forward with change. Enjoy. Here's the last one. It's going to sound similar to number 2, but it's not the same. The final question you need to ask yourself as you assess your readiness to change, after what do you want? And the better question is, what do you truly want? And then you ask yourself, are you willing to do what it takes after you found out what it really takes? The third question is, do you have what it takes? Let me explain the difference, okay? Are you willing to do what it takes is a matter of willingness. That's a matter of, yes, Lisa, I'm willing to cut this camera on and talk to 0 viewers just so I can get good at talking on camera. I'm willing to do that, right? Yes, Lisa, I'm willing to completely stop drinking my coffee or my wine and eating my favorite potato chips if that's what it takes to get off of these medications. That's willingness. But this third question, do you have what it takes, is speaking to capability. This is speaking to skill set. This is speaking to know-how. So just because I tell you that, if you want to be a speaker or coach, usually when you're a really good speaker, people want to work with you in some capacity after you speak. They want to know how they can work with you. And so if you want to be a great speaker, I recommend that you also have an offer other than your speaking offer. You need some type of coaching or consulting offer. You need some type of program. You should have something that people can go into next after you just set their life ablaze on stage. Now I say, are you willing to create an offer? That's number 2. Yes, Lisa, I'm willing to create an offer. But then number 3 says, do you know how to create an offer? Do you guys see the difference? So it's, are you willing to versus do you have what it takes? So now we're speaking to capability. It was like, yes, Lisa, I'm willing to create an offer to offer people when I get off a stage, but I don't know how to create an offer. I don't know how to package it. I don't know how to price it. I don't know how to sell it. I don't know how to deliver it. So I'm willing to, but I don't know how to. So while number 2 is an inside job, typically number 3 is an outside job. So the third thing is, do you know how? Do you have what it takes to actually do the thing you're trying to accomplish. This is a capability. This is this question about skill set. This is typically where something like a coach or a course or a book or a conference will come into play. Because while I know exactly what I want and I'm being honest about it, and while I've done the research to understand what it takes to get what I want, and now I'm willing to do what I learned, I still don't know how to. And so number 3 is, do you have what it takes? And for many of us, we don't. It can be very easy to say, because the goal sounds simple, yes, I do have what it takes to lose weight and get off of 2 blood pressure medications. Yes, I do have what it takes to climb out of consumer debt and really get into a place of financial freedom where my net worth is $10 million or more. Yes, I do have what it takes. But do you really? Do you know anybody with that net worth? Do you understand what you're working toward? Like, the decisions are made differently when you're operating in that income bracket. Like, decisions are made differently when you're not just trying to improve your health, but you're trying to optimize your health. Like, improving your health is moderation. Optimizing your health is abstinence. Are you sure? Like, did you really do your research? Because you trying to lose weight and they trying to lose weight, that y'all got the same goal. No. They trying to lose their weight for the July vacation. You trying to lose your weight for optimization and so that it'll stay off. That's optimization. Right now, we're talking longevity. That requires different types of decisions. So you think you have what it takes, but do you really? Have you really done the research to understand that this is not just about losing the weight, but now I got to keep it off. But in order to keep it off, there's some major adjustments I have to make in my life. And I thought it was just a matter of eating differently and exercising. And while that will work to get the weight off, the issue historically has been keeping it off and making sure it doesn't come back. So do you have what it takes? Because from my recollection, from what you told me, is that you've lost weight before, but you've never successfully kept it off. So I don't think I would be too far-fetched in assuming that you don't have what it takes. But it's only because you don't know what it takes. You know what it takes to lose it. You don't understand what it takes to keep it off. And for that reason, you need help, right? Like, it's different. And so, are you willing is one question. Do you have what it takes is a whole nother question. And so we gotta understand how to assess ourselves when we have these goals. Like, Lisa, you say you want to be an author. That's what you said. Are you willing to write? Uh-huh. Are you really going to edit? Uh-huh. Are you willing to sit down every day? Uh-huh. Do you have? Uh-uh. I had to reach out to an editor. I had to get the feedback. Now I got to go back and do the next draft. Like, I'm like, ooh, child, right? And so that, do you have what it takes? I had to tap in with a professional. Like, how can I really, truly claim that I have what it takes to be an author? And this is my first book. I've never written anything before. Like, I got to consult with authors. I got to consult with editors. I got to consult with people, publishers who understand this. Like, because I don't want to just write a book. A lot of people write a book, but then it never sells or it never gets into enough people's hands to transform their lives. So I'm like, well, what does it look like for me to write a book that makes it on the stands at the airport? Because that's my goal. See, you want to be an author. I want to be an author. But maybe your goal is just to get the story out. My goal is for people to be passing by it in the airport and picking it up and saying radical obedience. Now, I need to know what it takes to get my book on the stands in airports, not just what it takes to be an author, right? So first of all, and that goes back to number 1, like, am I willing to admit that I don't want to just write a book to say I wrote a book? I want to write a book that millions of people read and it starts the transformation process for their lives. That means I'm writing a little different than the person who just wants to write, self-publish, and sell it out of their trunk. No offense to that, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is our goals are different, but on the surface, it will sound the same. It will sound the same on the surface. But when I was in the airport a few weeks ago and I was just walking past, that newsstand store that's in the airport, and I just saw all these different books. I was like, that's going to be mine one day. And I started videoing a newsstand and imagining my book right there. Like, that's a different type of goal. So the person next to you might want to lose weight. The person next to you might want financial freedom. The person next to you might want to quit their 9-to-5 that they hate too, but that still don't mean y'all got the same goal. And it's very hard to assess your readiness to change if you haven't been completely honest about, I don't want to just be an author. Like, I want to be a New York Times bestseller. And I want my book on the stands in airports. And I would love my book to be in multiple languages because I really believe that my message about radical obedience is one that could change lives. I really believe that because I've done it on a small scale in my little corner of the earth right now. So I'm like, oh, if I could blast this out to millions, I think a lot of people are going to resonate with it because a lot of people resonated with it in my little ecosystem, in my little corner of the earth. So I'm like, what if we could put a megaphone behind this? Oh, I can change lives with radical obedience. So my goal is not just to write a book. My goal is to be in the airport and to be in multiple languages and to be on somebody's bestseller list. And I want to make sure people understand what radical obedience is. Because I got what it takes to write a book, but do I have what it takes to write a book that's worthy of the airport store? That's all I'm saying. Let's review before we get into this final segment. When you have big goals, you have to assess your readiness to change, guys. And assessing your readiness to change looks like 4 questions. And so make sure you have this in your notes. It looks like, number 1, are you aware of the real problem? You think your issue is just maybe a lack of discipline, or you think your issue is a lack of time, or you think your issue is a lack of resources or support. Is that the real problem? Okay. So question number 1, are you aware of the real problem that identifies the reason why you haven't quite accomplished your goals yet, right? This young lady I told you guys about in Atlanta, she realized she had an emotional issue with food. And that's what was holding her up. So that's the real work she needs to do. It's work on whatever that emotional connection is, healing from whatever that is, right? So do you know the real problem? Question number 2, do you know what you really want, right? So it's not just about do you know what you want? And it's not just about knowing what you don't want. Many of us know what we don't want because pain forces you to focus on what you don't want. I just want to be out of pain. But if you really took some serious time to think about what you really want, what is it? And also, when you state what you want, are you allowing yourself to dream as big as you want to dream? Or are you chopping your goals off at the knees because you can't figure out how it's possible? You can't figure out how it can happen. Okay. So identify what you really want and be careful with trying to be modest. Be careful with allowing gratitude to get in your way of claiming what you really want. Because sometimes when we have what a lot of people may still need in the world, like, man, I'm healthy. I live in a home. I got food on the table. We're not really one for nothing. How dare me dream bigger? How dare me ask for more? Like that gratitude thing sometimes can get in our way. Like, don't let gratitude get in the way of you asking for what you really want. Okay. So this very dangerous game to play. Like, you can be grateful and want more at the same time. And so one of the problems that a lot of us face is that we try and stay modest and humble and practice humility in our wanting. Therefore, we end up with something that wasn't our first choice. And now we're back to square one with creating a new goal. But what if you made your goal your first choice instead of the choice that you would settle with? What if you made your real goal your first choice? Okay. Instead of settling in your asking, don't settle in your ask. And when you're desiring, it's no need to figure out the how. All you have to know is the what. The third question you need to ask yourself is, are you willing to do what it takes only after you've become crystal clear on what it takes? Are you willing to do what it takes only after you have done the research with people that you trust to figure out what it really takes? Like, Lisa, okay, let's say I don't want to just feel better, but I actually want to put this condition in remission. What does that take? Like, I don't want to know what it just takes to live a plant-based lifestyle, but what does it really take to run a business full-time as a speaker and a coach? Like, give me all the stuff. Don't tell me the good stuff. Tell me all the dirty stuff too. Tell me what you had to get over. Tell me what, kind of fights I'm gonna have to fight. Tell me the uphill battles. Like, what does it really take? Because before I say I want this, I need to be clear on what it takes. Okay. So are you willing to do what it takes only after you've done the research to find out what it really takes? And then finally, do you have what it takes? Do you have what it takes? And this is capability. And you must be willing here to admit that you need help. You must be willing to accept help, because saying that you're willing to do what it takes, but when you look at the list and realize there's some things on here where I have no idea where to start. And Lisa, I have no idea how to live a plant-based life. I have no idea how to cook without oil. Lisa, I have no idea how to invest so that my net worth can go up over the next 5 years. Lisa, I have no idea, how to get out of this relationship. I know I don't want to be in it, but I really don't know where to start with exiting from it. Like, do you have what it takes? And if you don't, that's when we invite in help, right? So do you have what it takes as an outside job? Are you willing to do what it takes as an inside job? So those are the questions that we should be asking ourselves to assess our readiness for change. Okay. Let's get into this final bit. So that's the assessment that I've been using for years. We call it the trifecta of transformation. So that's the assessment that we use for years: desire, willingness, and capability. And so I wanted to share that with you guys because I know a lot of us have goals. Now, here is the final thing I want to do today. I want to introduce a new segment for our Monday Morning Keynotes called BS. And this is our business segment, you guys, dirty mouth thinking. And we're going to move into our business segment. This is the first installment of our business segment. And there's something more personal that I want to share with you guys in this new business segment, this BS. So what BS we got on the table today? Now, many of you guys who have been listening to me, I am a full-time entrepreneur. Professionally, I am a speaker. I am a coach. I'm a teacher. And I teach in the spaces of health and business and personal development for my community and other communities. And I really, really enjoy it. Like, I am so grateful and completely satisfied with my work. I do group coaching. I do individual coaching. I do speaking for organizations. I do a lot of speaking and teaching for my company, master classes and events. And I really enjoy it and I love it. But there's a journey that I want you guys to take with me. And you guys got to be patient with me. I'm not used to being this vulnerable publicly. But there's a journey that I want you guys to take with me because I've had to come to the hard realization in the last several weeks. And it really came to a head this weekend, if I'm being honest. But I had to come to a hard realization that I'm burnt out. And as I was like researching and studying burnout, I'm it. Like, I match the criteria. Like, I'm surprised my face isn't on Google yet when you pull up the word. And so there's no denying it. But let me tell you guys my struggle with this. So first of all, I think part of the reason that it took so long for me to acknowledge that I'm burned out was because I'm not stressed out, right? Now, this can be a little confusing because stress can cause burnout. And in some definitions of burnout, it just says it's long-term stress, right? But when I say I'm not stressed out, I mean from a definition that we think of when we think of burnout, when we think of stress. Like, I don't have pressure on me. Nothing's causing me like emotional overwhelm, or I don't have any circumstance that I don't know what to do about it. Like, chronic stress is the amalgamation of usually a lot of things at one time that applies a lot of pressure to you and typically causes these feelings of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get out of this. And it usually does things like sacrifice your health and your well-being. And I don't have that. And so I thought it was just a matter of, Lisa, you need to take more days off. Like, you just need to take some more days off. You need to rest a little more, right? Which I'm sure we all need to. However, as I started attempting to do that, I would realize that I still wasn't coming back to work refreshed, right? I'm like, what? This is not just a 2-day off problem. And I had to really start asking friends and doing research and talking to people about like, what is burnout? And it's me. Okay. Now, I'm bringing this up on the business segment because typically the most common type of burnout is occupational burnout. It's the most common type of burnout is occupational burnout. And it comes from, this overworking. But the word that resonated with me the most in studying burnout, which I identify with completely, is depletion, feeling depleted. And when I try and rest for a couple of days or take a half a day of work or whatever, take a weekend or whatever, I don't come back feeling refreshed and reared up and ready to go like I used to. And so I'm realizing that this is going to take more. This is going to take more than just a couple of days off and lighter work days. And let me tell you my challenge with this. and something that I've had to reconcile and that I'm imagining I'm still reconciling, which is, have you guys, tell me in the chat if you guys have ever heard of this term, disenfranchised grief. I'm going to read the definition to you because I'm interested in hearing if you guys have ever heard of it. But let me read the definition. So disenfranchised grief refers to grief that is not openly acknowledged or socially validated or publicly mourned, right? Now, my best friend taught me this term many years ago when her mom passed. And disenfranchised grief is basically the type of grief that isn't really acknowledged or socially accepted. Like, you don't get a lot of empathy for it because it's like, that's sad, but it's like, that's supposed to help. And like, okay, so her mom passed kind of unexpectedly, and she was still mourning it after a significant amount of time. And because our parents are supposed to go before us, it's natural. It's natural for your parents to pass before you. Like, so although you're sad and you mourn it, you know, after a while, people like, you really don't get any more empathy or care. Like, nobody's reaching out to you after a while. However, if we was to flip that around and a parent loses a child, now that is like, you get all the empathy in the world because it's not supposed to happen in that order, right? So people are like, oh my God, like, you lost a baby, you lost a kid, like, that's a big deal. Like, but when a child loses a parent, you're supposed to, right? Our parents are supposed to go before us. And so while you will get empathy and care immediately after the loss, like 3 years after the loss, ain't nobody checking on you. You know what I mean? And so that's what we consider disenfranchised grief. And the reason I told you guys that definition is because what I believe I'm kind of experiencing is disenfranchised burnout. Let me explain. So disenfranchised burnout, what I mean by that, and this is, I'm not even going to blame it on society. This is me in my head, where I don't think my burnout is openly acknowledged or socially acceptable, because my burnout has not resulted in things like my health failing. My burnout is not because I'm a people pleaser. So meaning, like, I say yes to too many people without taking care of myself. That's not an issue at all. And so my burnout is not a result of not choosing myself. My burnout is not a result of neglecting my personal needs. My burnout is not a result of trying to be everything to everyone else. My burnout is not a result of my identity. Like, you know how like moms or wives would be, or husbands even, you know, would just be like, I feel like I'm just a mom, or I'm just a wife, or I'm just a husband, and like, I've lost myself. Like, I've heard women who experience that talk about how they, you know, somebody asked them what they like, or they tried to do something for themselves and they didn't even know what they wanted. They didn't know what they liked because their identity for so long had been about somebody else. That's not my type of burnout. Like, I don't have those identity issues because I've been trying to be so many things to other people. My health is the best it's ever been. But here's the biggest one. This is really why I believe I have disenfranchised burnout. My burnout, occupational burnout, is also not because I'm doing work that I hate. It's not because I'm overwhelmed with work that is not meaningful, it's not purposeful. Like, I don't want to quit. It's not like it's time to move on, this job is killing you. Like, I've had clients who have been hospitalized from the stress at work. Like, I know work can take a major toll on us. And I believe it can arguably take an even bigger toll if it's work you don't even like, right? If it's work where you're like, you're not happy at the company or with the people or with the work itself. You've maybe outgrown the work. It's not meaning for you. It doesn't feel purposeful. You don't feel seen. You don't feel acknowledged. Like, that's not my situation at all, y'all. So because I have always heard of burnout being in those type of circumstances where, like, you're not sleeping right, your health is failing, your relationships are failing, could be, you know, depression. Like, I haven't experienced that. And so my burnout, it makes me think of, like, similar to how like a billionaire will be treated if they publicly acknowledge that they were depressed. Most people in the world will be like, boy, shut up. Girl, shut up. You're a billionaire. Go cry your tears with $100 bills. Like, that's disenfranchised because a lot of people won't have empathy for you. And so in my mind, I'm not saying that people won't have empathy for me, but I've never really explored that I was burned out because my burnout didn't look or wasn't caused by the typical things. I would argue, and I could be wrong because I'm new to this world. So this is just me speaking freely. This is not me speaking from like how I typically research data, whatever, right? This is me just speaking freely. But in my world, in my exposure to burnout, I would consider it atypical, right? I would consider it atypical. And it's so funny. I was watching a reel on Instagram recently, and this girl was complaining about the size of her butt, right? But it was a nice butt. People would be oogling, looking at it, right? And so she was complaining about the size of her butt. And somebody said in the comments, which I think sums up everything I just talked about with disenfranchised burnout. Somebody said in the comments, girl, get you a real situation that matters. Exact sentence. I laugh because this is exactly how people, so basically what I hear in my head is like, my reason for my burnout, y'all, and that it even hurts to say it out loud because I'm like, nobody's gonna care. And this is just me just needing to work on this part. But my burnout is from living in my purpose. My burnout is from doing work I love. My burnout is from the opposite of what people's normal burnout is. My burnout is not from not pouring into myself enough. My burnout is from pouring into myself consistently, plus pouring into other people, like all the time, right? Even in the last month, but multiple times over my career in the last 10 years, multiple people say, you've changed my life. Maybe they went through one of my programs and they say, this has been life changing. My burnout comes from doing meaningful, purposeful work that changes people's lives. And as a result, is rewarding for me. My burnout comes from waking up every day and just trying to be in service to God and be in service to people. But I haven't controlled my pace properly, right? So I'm huge on integrity. I'm huge on doing what I say I'm going to do. I'm huge on being a woman of my word. I'm huge on honoring our clients and what we say we offer and do for them. And so I always want to show up. I always want to be present. Like during the challenge, our 30-day challenge that we do, I teach twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays for the entire month. Then in our cohort of Farm to Table plant-based coaching program that we just wrapped up, I was with my students every single week for 12 consecutive weeks. And on their review forms, one of the things that several of them said in their exit evaluations was when we asked, like, what was your favorite part of the program? They're like, being with Lisa every week, her dropping gems, her personality, her jokes, like, we love that. And that's what I love to do. So my burnout literally comes from work I love. And so I feel like I ain't gonna get no sympathy. But like it's very much given Cry Me a River. You know what I'm saying? Because I haven't missed a workout. I still eat my plants every damn day. I drink my tea. I drink my water. I do fun things. I'm in a healthy relationship. I got dope friendships. Like my mom, when I called her this morning for her birthday, she's like, oh my God, you really took care of me, Lise. You got me this, you got me this. She was on her way to the gym to do her walk. And she was like, I got my new shoes on that you sent me in the mail. Like my relationship, I practice everything that I teach my students to do. I tell them your relationships is the number one indicator of a long life and longevity. I teach them the importance of your physical health in order to optimize your gifts. Like take care of your body and your mind first so that you can show up on a side. So I do everything I teach my students to do whilst teaching them to do it. And I don't know the last time I've had an off day. I'm tired. Like even when I try and rest, I don't feel like I'm coming back 110%. And so anyway, let's wrap up this BS segment and this new business segment. I said all that to say that I want to take you on this journey with me to recovering from burnout. And so a couple of things that I want to do is like, I got to get to a place where I'm only working 4 days a week. I need more help in the company. And I need to take a month off. And I think those are the top three things. Oh, and there's this one more cool thing. And I think this is super cool that I want to do to help with burnout recovery. But I just started studying. Again, y'all, this is just me speaking freely. So we're going to figure this all out together. But today I was listening to a sermon about burnout, and he was talking about his experience with burnout. And he was saying that his counselor told him that he too was depleted and he needed to be filled up. And that one of the ways to do that was to actually not sit still. For him, he needed to engage in an activity that distracted him from his normal day-to-day work. But based on his personality type and the type of burnout he was experiencing. And so when I say the type of burnout he was experiencing, which is the same type I'm experiencing, which is a person who works with their mind all day. If you work with your mind all day, this counselor was recommending that you engage in a physical activity to help with burnout recovery. And if somebody works with their body or their physical all day, they need to engage in a activity that engages their mind to recover from burnout. So the example he used is like if you're a mom and you take care of the family, you take care of the kids all day, and you're always going one place or another and running errands and doing all that for the babies, you need to recover by actually maybe reading a book or getting into something that stimulates you intellectually. Whereas me, because all my work is intellectual, I need to do an activity that stimulates me physically, but it needs to be a high adrenaline activity. So you would think, and this was very interesting for me to listen to, because you would think that, when you hear burnout, you think the antidote would be just being still. You would think the antidote is just rest, but that's harder. Like, I don't know if I can go straight to rest. I'm like, after 2 days of sitting still, I'm like, come on now, like, it's gotta be something we can do. Like, not even if it's not work, I'm not saying give me something to work on. I'm just saying, man, I'm just supposed to sit, like, rest all the time. And so I really like this idea of engaging in a physical activity that gave him a bit of adrenaline rush. And I think that's my type of personality too. So he was talking about he took playing lessons and got into like MMA fighting, right? As recovery burnout. And I resonated with that so much. So my fourth thing on the list that I want you guys to like just rock with me with and take this journey is going to be finding an activity to immerse myself into that will be a wonderful distraction from all the intellectual work that I have to do all the time. And some things that I've already tried. So a couple of years ago, I too actually took a flight lesson. I was going to become a pilot, y'all, believe it or not. But they turned that plane upside down and your girl was done. Okay. I'm like, not today. We was like in a little Cessna plane. I'm like, nah, I understand, Jesus. Put me back on the ground. So flight lessons is out. Tried that. Also got into roller skating a couple years ago. But after falling twice, I'm like, first of all, I'm too swaggy for all this falling. Okay, so roller skating is out. And then last year, or maybe the year before, or whatever, I thought about modeling, doing some modeling. I would love to do some modeling. Been asked several times in my model. And so I was like, modeling would be fun because it's artsy. Like, this might sound crazy, but because I do so much intellectual work, I would love to do something where they're like, we don't want your brain, we want your body. I know that's a stigma that's put on models. Like they, maybe people say not that smart, all beauty, no brains, but I'm trying to be all beauty, no brains. So I thought about modeling for that reason as well. So I don't know, y'all. I don't have a decision yet because burnout. And so got decision fatigue. I got compassion fatigue, all the things. But that's some of the things I'm thinking about doing. So 4-day work week. I need a month off to definitely secure more help in the business so that when I am reinvigorated, like I'm used to being, I'm not just coming back to the same workload, right? So I need to spread the workload, and then I need to engage in an activity that is not mentally stimulating, that is not intellectually stimulating. So that's what I have so far. So that's the first installment of our new business segment, also known as BS. And we'll have this segment every week at the end of my Monday morning keynote, right after our main lesson. And I just want to be transparent. And I thought it would be super cool to have you guys walk this journey with me because I do want to be held accountable publicly. But most importantly, this might be counterintuitive to what I'm trying to solve. But most importantly, I want y'all to learn from it and be able to teach y'all some lessons too, and be able to transform some lives in the midst of recovering from burnout. And I was talking to a friend who experienced burnout recently, and I asked her how long it took her to recover, and she said a year. And I'm like, I get it. I could see how that was possible. So this is not going to be an overnight situation, but I want to keep you guys updated on what I'm doing, what's going on, what I'm working on. So this business segment will be dedicated to updates on this, obviously, but then also we're going to talk business in this business segment as well as I'm making changes and transitions. I know a lot of you are entrepreneurial or entrepreneurial aspirations. And so I thought it would be cool to include this weekly in addition to our talk about health and mindset. That's it. And that's all for me today. It was a pleasure hanging out with y'all. I love y'all. Thank y'all for being here. We'll be back here next Monday, once again, for our Monday morning keynote and our BS business segment as well. Until then, have a phenomenal week, you guys. Bye, y'all.
You tuned in today because, like me, you refuse to let your good become the enemy of your great. You're not settling for good health when optimal is well within reach. If you're ready to go from good to great, visit lisaangelsmith.com to learn more about our plant-based health coaching program, Farm to Table, and our plant-based business accelerator and coaching certification. But before you go, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast. Until next time, remember, radical obedience is still undefeated. Stay obedient.